Hey everybody, this is Eric Enge. I'm the CEO of Stone Temple Consulting. This is the Digital Marketing Excellence Show, so hopefully that's what you're looking for, because that is where you have found yourself. And I'm excited to have a great show today. With me are Peg Fitzpatrick and Rebecca Radice. Why don't you both say hello? Peg, you want to go first, and then Rebecca?
Hello, everybody. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And Rebecca?
I will second that. It's so exciting to be back here with both of you. So thanks, Eric. Thanks for inviting us.
Totally. I'm excited for the show because I follow the stuff that you guys are posting all the time quite closely on at least two platforms that I can name off the top of my head. And so that's the...
What? Only two? We got to work on that, Rebecca.
Stop it. Seriously.
So...
That is our goal for today.
Yes, indeed. So, and you're constantly putting out great social media content and content marketing type content, and so that's very cool. And we wanted to talk about Pinterest and Google Plus, and I think it would be great if we could just talk about them individually for a little bit first. And then we could start talking about how they work together and things they have in common and stuff like that. And unlike some Hangouts, by the way, I'm into chaos theory. So I might not specifically say, Peg, what do you think? And then Rebecca, what you think. Feel free to jump in a little bit and let's let the discussion flow naturally. But
we can do that, Eric. As a matter of fact, we have our own questions already prepared, and I'm just kidding.
So we're all good. We'll take it from here.
No. Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm good, so roll with it.
Eric's like, oh boy, what did I get myself into?
You got yourself into a lot because actually Rebecca's been traveling this week, so we haven't talked to each other that much. So we're like, yay!
You've caught us all pent up with a million things to talk about and catch up on.
We'll try to focus it on Google Plus and Pinterest.
Yeah, thank you for adding that. I was going to say no. The shoe discussion now has to stop.
Oh, well, we can work that into our content marketing. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, and now we're into the topic of the show. I know that's boring, but
well, actually, it's not, because Rebecca and I spend a really lot of our time talking about Google Plus and Pinterest. So this is exactly what we love talking about is marketing and Google Plus. And Google Plus, to me, I love Google Plus because of the longer form. I love the formatting. I love that you meet really targeted, relevant people to what you want to discuss. So if you choose to discuss content marketing all day long, there's people who will do it with you, and your family doesn't want to talk about social media with you anymore, which would be my family. There's always someone to talk to about it. And Google Plus, the people who haven't embraced Google Plus yet, if you're watching this, Google Plus is Google. So everything that you do on Google Plus is really spread everywhere on the web and helps everything else that you do. So I like to try to encourage people to come over and just give it a try. And
I was sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say, to that point, what you and I talk about all the time is it expands the conversation that you're having everywhere else. So like you said, because Google Plus is Google, because people are searching online all day long, it just gives you a much larger reach and the ability to reach that targeted audience that you're speaking about. And people, I think, a lot of times they're doing these one-off tactics where they're over here on Facebook, maybe they're over here on Twitter, over there on Pinterest, but what they haven't figured out how to do, and I know we're going to talk about today, is how to pull that all together and really integrate, everything that they've got going on.
And the thing with Facebook is people get confused they think Facebook and Google Plus are the same. But Facebook, the conversations are exactly the same over and over again. It's Monday. I hate Monday. Let's have more coffee. And it's like very light conversations that don't really get topical or interesting. Sorry, Facebook people. I mean, I'm friends with a lot of my people on multiple platforms, but Facebook to me is that it still is your friends and family, even though you're friends with other people. It's a very lighter conversation. In Google Plus, you can just really get into what you're into, whether it's your blog or your business or marketing. You can just create better conversations around any topic, I think.
Well, and I think to your point, it's really more industry or niche specific. Google Plus is where you can talk about what you're passionate about, what your hobbies are, what you love to do every single day. And as you said, Peg, you've got an audience. You've got a group of people that want to chat about the same things. Where with Facebook, yeah, you know, it's and obviously it's different for everybody and how they use social media and each social channel. But I'm with you. You know, Facebook is very personal. I share far more personal information just because my friends and family are spending time there. I'm still struggling to drag them over to Google Plus. So, yeah, it's just an excellent way to really, as I said, reach a whole new audience, an audience that you've probably been dying to get in front of. They're craving your content, and it just, I think it creates that perfect mix.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the thing that I find is exactly as both of you said, you can have people on Google Plus who write multi-hundred-word comments on a post.
Yeah.
Right? Which would never happen anywhere else. And sometimes it's a little bit daunting, frankly, because you're that's the downside of it, right? You're in your notification.
Be careful what you ask for, right?
Yeah, and you know you have the bell from hell up there, as they call it sometimes. You know, 99 plus, and you've X'd out a few that you know you're not going to get time for, and then you open someone's and you're in this mode of you're trying to go through it all, and then it's like, okay, somebody has added this humongous comment on there, and they really deserve a thoughtful response from me, and I kind of have to save that one and get back to it. So that's a little bit of the downside, but quite honestly, the upside of all that is so wonderful because you're getting a much more comprehensive conversation than you get anywhere else, right?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's like a blog. You know, with comments, people are leaving very thoughtful, deep, well thought out comments, and it's just like Google Plus, where if you want to build meaningful relationships, you've got to be able to not only create but sustain a conversation. And I think Google Plus gives us that opportunity in a way I haven't seen on any other social network.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a name for it because I've had this concept in my head for a little while, but Google Plus is kind of a medium between regular social media and blogging, because it's not a micro blog like Twitter, and it's not a full blog like your blog, but it's like a meso blogging. You know, it's like this middle ground of great conversation, more content, as much text as you want. It's like in between a blog. You know, that's why Rebecca and I format our posts exactly the same way. It is a mini blog post. I mean, it's exactly a mini blog post. It has a header, has a subheader, and we break up the text. We we make it easy to read. And on Facebook, you really don't do that. So Google Plus allows you to present your information in such a great way. I don't know. It's such a benefit.
Drives the conversation capability, right? You have something that's a little easier to deal with in terms of reading it. Mm-hmm. And that's a great thing. But you don't
have to go somewhere else. You can read it all there. You know, if people put enough, a lot of people don't want to click off the social network once they're there. People want to just stay on Google Plus.
Well, and I think that's what really lends to the conversation too, is we're taking this amazing blog post and we're kind of pulling out the pieces that really spoke to us and putting our thoughts, that context around it. And so it gives people a much deeper insight into why we're sharing this content, why it was important to us, why we feel it's relevant, why we feel it's shareable, whatever the case might be. And yeah, to your point, Peg, I have people comment about that all the time. Oh my gosh, I love that you share so much. of the content from that particular post, so I can really get, the meat and potatoes, and know exactly, whether or not I want to click through or whatever the case might be. But yeah, I think that's what is giving us the ability to really go deeper, take that deeper dive into conversations, into topics, into those things that Peg and I, could talk 24/7 about, but not everybody wants to hear us talking about social media, believe it or not. I know it's crazy. I know.
You mean Rich and Dean?
Exactly. Like
our husbands. Our dogs love it.
They're really good listeners.
Yeah, that's because of the way you talk to the dog while you're doing it. Oh, Pinterest is such a lovely platform.
Yes, exactly. You got it down.
Tone of voice, you could be saying anything.
That's funny. And I was going to say, like, we have the style that we post. There's other ways to post that are also really successful. Like Dennis LaBelle does the best resource list posts, and he's so succinct and like concise, and people love those. One thing I wish that more people did was come up with their own way that worked really well. There's really more ways that it can work really, really well.
Individual styles, right?
Individual styles. Like not everybody the same. Right. Just because someone else's thing works doesn't mean you have to do the same thing. My style was like a combination of what I learned from Guy and What the Plus, and then I just kept experimenting with it to see what worked. Because when I first started on Google Plus, my blog, nobody looked at my blog. Like it took me a really long time to figure out a way to make my content interesting, because there weren't really bloggers on Google Plus at that point. It was just people posting other stuff and having conversations. So, but keep innovating, people. Like, don't just copy. Do something unique, and that's how you can find make your own niche.
Well, and that's the fun of social media, right? It's not static. Right. It's constantly evolving, and we're always finding new ways to use Google Plus, use Pinterest, use Twitter, Facebook, whichever platform it is. You have to find your own groove. You have to find your own style, your own voice. And I think that all comes with trial and error. I think it comes with figuring out.
I was going to say that experimenting is the best.
It's the most fun. I absolutely love it. And that's what I always challenge people. Don't be afraid to step out and try something new. Just because nobody else is doing it yet, who cares?
Yeah,
you may stumble upon. Yeah, exactly.
Well, but it stands out. That's the thing, right? You end up doing something that really, and people react to it, and that actually can be critical in order to just trying to build yourself into a platform. If you're first trying to get into it, is if you do copy what the other people are doing, that might work to a degree, but if you can find something, some unique way to approach it, and even at the presentation level, it can really have a dramatic impact.
Definitely. And just always thinking about new ways to do things. Innovating your own practices is something that Rebecca and I talk about all the time. And we come up with things and we're just like, why didn't we think of that before? Like, why were we not adding a link to Pinterest on Google Plus before? Why didn't we think of that? It's like I think working on multiple platforms helps you think outside the box even more, because you're not just always looking at one thing. Sometimes you might see the way things are done on another area and say, I can bring that over here. Or have conversations with people on Hangouts. Watch Hangouts where people are talking about things, because everybody has different experiences and ties different ideas together. So, us talking about Google Plus and Pinterest might give somebody a great idea to do something on Twitter later. You never know where your ideas are going to come from. So keep learning, and experimenting is the best way to create your own unique style.
Yeah, and have fun with it. You should have fun with wherever you're choosing to spend your time, and truly enjoy being that innovator, that person that is playing around with what works best, what doesn't. Because just because, and Peg, you already made this point, just because it works for you doesn't mean it's going to work for somebody else. All of our communities are different. They're having different conversations. And so for us, the goal is to really keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on with my community, and that's, you know, my fans, my followers, my those connections that I'm making every single day. And that, of course, is just going to constantly evolve as social media evolves, as changes take place within each of the social networks. You've really got to be, I think, agile in a sense, that you're willing to make those changes that are necessary to keep yourself in front of and relevant, and also creating that conversation with your community.
So kind of an interesting point, which I'm going to have some fun pointing out, is that this notion of experimenting and doing things differently is you know, something that applies to more than Google Plus. Of course, it applies everywhere you do everything. And so, you know, right at the beginning of the show, I said that one thing I do a little different than other Hangout shows is that I'm into chaos theory, and I like the conversation to flow. And so the conversation that's just sort of exploded here is an example of what results when you just decide to try something a little different. So hopefully that stands out and is interesting to people, because we're all kind of just diving in, having fun talking about it, right? So it's just a thought. But one of the things that's a little, well, that's great about Google Plus too, is it's really good with visuals, right? You can do tons of stuff with images. We have the new stories feature. We have auto awesomes. You know, lots of great things you can do with images with the Google Plus platform.
Definitely. And that's actually the segue to how Pinterest, that's how my segue to working them together was, because Pinterest is all images, and I realized that when I shared my really great Pinterest images on Google Plus, that they were really popular. So it was kind of an experiment of, well, maybe I could try sharing pins. Of course, you can't just take the images off Pinterest that you don't have permission to use, unfortunately. That would make life easy if you could just take someone else's stuff and post it, but you can't. But I do, on ones that are branded and, you know, that I know that, like on Rebecca's stuff or people who I'm connected with, I will use their images because I'm helping promote their blog and I know them. But that's, for me, was like the tie-in for the images, you know, that Google Plus, the real benefit between Google Plus and Pinterest is that you can save up all your awesome stuff on Pinterest, where on Google Plus, I know people have certain ways that they do it, like making certain communities just for them, private circles just for them, but it doesn't really sort your content. And once you've been on social media for a while, when someone says to you, hey, Eric, do you know anything about, you know, SEO for corporate blogs? You could just go to your Pinterest board and share the whole board that you've been saving up. I use it for a resource for myself all the time. And it helps me on Google Plus because I can always find great things to share that aren't already on Google Plus. Excuse me. So working them together helps both of them be better. That's the thing. On any platform, well, for example, on Pinterest, 80% of the pins are repins. So there's only 20% of the content is new content. So both Rebecca and I like to add new content that we create ourselves onto Pinterest, and that alone, percentage-wise, makes our content stand out because it's in the 20% of new information.
Yeah.
New images, and they're branded, and it's things that go with our blog. So when we bring that over to Google Plus, where I don't even know what percentage of new stuff is on Google Plus, but a lot of it is reshared. I think 20% is probably accurate for like how many people produce content, and then 80% are consumers.
That would make sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a total guesstimate, but I would guess that Pinterest is probably about the same as other social networks. So if you're taking the time to create your own content, even if it's just once a week like Rebecca and I do, we're not like everyday bloggers, even though we would be if we didn't do anything else we would like to. But we don't have time to. But being original content creator helps your content stand out on all the platforms too, because you're sharing something new that other people haven't already shared. It's great when people do share your content, and you know, thankfully people like our content and share it when we do post it, because that's great. But only sharing other people's content doesn't build your own thought leadership in any area of expertise. I think at some point you have to add your own 2 cents into the conversation.
You definitely do, in one way, shape, or form, you know, whether it's a hangout like this, whether it's a podcast, whether it's an article, a video, tutorial, how-to, whatever it might be. I agree. I think that's the only way you begin to create that brand recognition, that thought leadership, as you're talking about, and really create differentiation. Because, Peg, you know, you and I talk a lot about how I could, and sorry if there's dogs in the background, we're babysitting some dogs at my sister's house today, and so there's like 6 dogs running around this house. I'm just hiding in her office, but anyway, it's interesting because I can scan any social network, whether it's Google Plus, whether it's Pinterest, and I know Peg's content like that. You know, she has branded herself so well with her images that there's no doubt in my mind that that is her particular article, her particular pin or post, whatever it might be. So, you know, it really does come down to, yes, you want to share other people's content, but I think you absolutely have to create your own as well.
Yeah, totally. And I think in the area of images, Peg, you mentioned that 80% of the pins are repins. You know, it's kind of a different dimension for people, right? I mean, you know, people who are really good at writing long-form content and maybe explaining something in an article, and creating images is kind of a different dimension, right? A different skill set.
Definitely.
So it's kind of interesting to think about, you know, all right, not everybody's going to be good at, in fact, very few people are going to be good at both of those. So,
right.
You know, any thoughts on how to deal with that?
Yes.
Matter of fact.
Great. You want to share those thoughts?
As a matter of fact, Canva is the perfect solution to that, which Rebecca and I have been using for a long time. And we kept it a secret because we loved it so much and we didn't share it. But now we've outed ourselves with a secret. Canva makes it so easy to make good images, where I'm not a Photoshop user, I'm not a graphic design user, but I make images that are professional enough for me to use for my blog and on social media. And for example, like if you go to a blog that doesn't, SEO blogs never have images. Like all the stuff that you probably read, Eric, is probably not pinnable. So that makes it a big challenge. And one time I wanted to share one of Mark Traphagen's posts, which was a great post, but the image was too small for Google+. I didn't want to share it, so I made a custom graphic from Canva. It took me like 5 minutes. It was like unlocking the secrets. It was a really great article that Mark wrote. And that got tons of repins, it was like on What's Hot on Google+, and it was a very, very basic image. It was like gray with the Google+ logo on it. So it doesn't take a lot of time, and if you find a platform where you can like make your own little style templates and then copy them and reuse them, it doesn't even take that long, actually. It takes less time to make a quick Canva graphic like that than it does to find a photo that you have permission to use, and then you have to check, you know, if you're going to use stock photos, then you have to, you know, cite all your sources. But when you make your own, it actually makes it easier to share all the images because you have permission. So
yeah, no, that's great. And
there's a lot of tricks to doing it quicker and making better stuff. I know it's really intimidating for a lot of people. Rebecca does use Photoshop, so she can do stuff that I can't do, and it took me a little while to get things where I liked them. But once you practice a little bit, it's actually not so hard, unless you're in Photoshop, and then it is pretty hard.
Well, and you know, to your point, I think the key to doing it quickly, doing it consistently, is creating your own templates. Just setting it up so you know what colors you use every single time, you know what fonts you use every single time, you know the dimensions for the social network that you're sharing to, so you can just pop in, create it, and share it. But
actually, that's what we've done over time. Like Rebecca and I both took a long time. Rebecca actually took a long time to find her font that she uses all the time now. So she doesn't think about it now, but it took her like I don't know, a couple months.
Forever.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just playing around with it. Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes maybe it looks like what we do is super easy. Maybe it took us a while to come up with our font that was our perfect thing. I still haven't found my perfect font yet. If you're out there, font, I'm available.
No.
But that's something that Rebecca took the time to do, and you always know Rebecca's images and posts as well because of that. She uses her color palette of orange, yellow, and red. She uses her same font. She uses, she's very consistent. So once you have that post that you post on Google Plus, and people are like, "That's amazing! You just found your template," which is exactly what Rebecca and I both did. We were like, "Bam, that's it." She posted one on Google Plus. It went crazy, and I was like, "You found your font!"
Yay!
So, yeah, but
by the way, just got to show you this because you'll appreciate this. So there's your vote for Canva right there from Christopher Vogelman. So
that's awesome.
So yeah, and so what about now? We're talking about Pinterest and Google Plus, of course. So what about the respective, dimensions and optimizations across those two platforms?
That's the beautiful thing. They're exactly the same. So the image that you're creating for Google Plus, you're also pinning to Pinterest. So there's not a situation where you're having to create a separate image for both networks, which, unfortunately we're still in a situation where you're creating a separate image for Twitter possibly, for Facebook possibly. So this kind of shortens your time.
Instagram.
Yes, exactly. So there's, again, that synergy between the two platforms that does shorten the amount of time but extend the lifetime and the reach of the people that you're getting that in front of. Pinterest, of course, being completely visual, it does, and Peg, I know, you talk about this a lot, just how much longer, what is it, the shelf life is how you put it.
I always say that, I don't know.
Yeah, is over on Pinterest, and it's absolutely true. I have one that I think I have over 2,000 pins on at this point, and almost, weekly, I think I come to you, Peg, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have another 100 pins. Yeah,
it's crazy.
It is.
I have pins that are like that too. Still, my ugliest pin ever is my most pinned, which is such a bummer. But it's a quick image that I made, and it's up to like 3,300 pins. And so they just keep bouncing around on Pinterest, which is amazing. In Google Plus, you can have an amazing post that gets tons of plus ones and shares, and unfortunately, it's kind of buried in traffic after a day.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's long. Google Plus is longer than some platforms, but and I think you have the Google search ability, which of course gives it great life. But Pinterest they keep bouncing around like not ping pongs. What is it? When you do the little ding ding. What am I thinking of? When the little ball goes up and they bounce around.
Are you thinking of a video game?
No, before video games when you used to have. Pinball!
Yeah, there you go. All right, yeah.
Pinball! It's like pinball because it bounces off one person's pinboard and it just keeps going boing, 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 boing. So it just keeps going.
And I think to your point too about the searchability, what I have noticed is if the more pins you get, the more searchable it seems to become. So as you're looking up keywords, so maybe it's social media marketing, you're looking up on Pinterest, you're going to start finding those pins that have been shared 1,000, 2,000 times, which I think just adds fuel to that fire and continues to keep them in front of people.
It does. Their search, they have really, really boosted their search. That guided search, their latest feature that they did, I honestly think that Pinterest is going to come up and it's challenging Google's awesome search. They have a lot of content on Pinterest. Pinterest pins are in Google search, and it's just getting, like, their search capabilities are amazing. They don't use hashtags, which Google Plus is the same way. You can use a hashtag or not, and Google Plus is smart enough to still sort your stuff, which I love that. And Pinterest is the same. Like, they just know your content goes together. And they have like each pin, it gives you like 5 different places to find related content, which is brilliant. There's like it was pinned on this board, you can find things there. It was related to this board here. Underneath is also pinned to this board, so you could find other people that pinned it. And then underneath is full-size pins, which are related pins. And you can find great content just by doing one search. You have all those different ways of finding new content. So if you search for Google Plus, you have like all those different places. So it's really knocking it out of the park as far as content discovery for me. It's just discovering new great content. It's been a content curation source for me for a long time.
Yeah, it's really evolved, hasn't it? You know, it started out as a bookmarking site, a way to kind of bookmark our favorite stuff, share our favorite stuff, evolved into the content curation, and I'm with you. It's become almost my top resource at this point. To where I'm constantly making my way over there, and it's because they've done so much with their search that it is just so simple to put in exactly what I'm looking for. And I think that's another point too. I would be willing to bet that anybody making their way over to Pinterest doing a search is very clear on why they're spending their time there, what they're looking for, what they're eager to share, what they're looking to pin, and then what they're looking to repin. So you've got those eyeballs on your content that they're looking for your stuff. And so if you're actively over there pinning, sharing great content, sharing that other people's content, sharing your own content, you have an excellent opportunity to tap into a whole new community of people that, hey, you know what, maybe this is their only resource. Maybe it's the only place they choose to get all of their information as far as from social networks. So, you know, that kind of leads me into another point, which Peg and I talk a lot about, which is being integrated in what you're doing and making sure that you're spreading the love when you're putting your content out there, and making sure you're putting it across multiple different networks, because you never want to assume people are only spending their time in one place. You're really missing out on an enormous opportunity if you're doing that.
Well, you have the people spending their time in multiple places. That's one part. And the other part is there'll be the people who are on one of the places and not the other. So you're exposing to larger audiences, which is really cool.
Right. Yep. I was also going to say, it reminded me when Rebecca was talking, that one thing about Pinterest is you don't see content over and over again. Like, it's always fresh. I don't know how that is, but like you don't go and see the same thing over and over again, which is really interesting.
That is a great point.
You don't get bored. I just realized that, though. Like, you never go and say, oh, I already saw that, you know.
Yeah.
You just don't.
Which is why it's such a great content curation site, too, because you're always finding something new.
Right. So to expand on that, something you can do is go to Pinterest. You can find great pins, and then you can share that pin as an image into your Google Plus post and write a long-form comment about it. And, oh, this is what I thought when I saw that. And have a raging discussion start on Google Plus about the whole thing.
And make sure you put the link back to your pin. On your Google Plus post, pin it for later, or come up with your own little phrase so people repin it, so they can save it. If I forget, people always say in the comments, "Where's my pin link?" People just expect it from me. I'm like, "I'm sorry, let me go get it." I always have it.
Yeah, I want to pin this for later. Yeah.
It's a really great call to action, and it saves your content. I don't know. It's good for everybody. Pinterest, just for content curation, and you know, especially if you're someone on Google Plus who's having the same niche conversations all the time, you can find something new to bring into that conversation, which is, you know, even if you only like to talk about travel to Ecuador all the time, maybe you can find something new to add to the travel to Ecuador conversation.
No, it's random.
I know. I was going to say SEO again. I was like, I already said SEO. So
no, we can't do SEO for everything here for sure. We got to.
I know. Or we could just say that a man walked into a bar, nightclub, cafe, whatever, that joke. I love
I
that
probably
joke.
need a little more differentiation than that because we'll run out of topics.
Yeah,
Uh,
and you know, Eric, along the lines of what you were talking about, if you're using it for content curation, do, you know, pin that article to one of your boards, bring it back over to Google Plus, so expand on that conversation, open up that conversation to a whole new audience, and do it exactly what Peg just said. You know, talk about what you love about that article. Make sure that you're crediting whoever the author is, whoever you're driving them back to as far as their blog is concerned. Great way to start building another relationship, possibly somebody you don't know at that point. So it's just again another great way to create that cross promotion, that cross pollination between different social networks. So you're sharing that content, you're giving your ideas and your thoughts around it, why it's so important to you, why it should be relevant to your audience, to your following. And then you're asking them to take an action. You always want to have that call to action. So whether it's read, you know, the rest of this article over here, or it's pin it for later, whatever it might be, just make sure that you're giving them options and you're also telling them what you want them to do, because you never want to assume, no matter the social network, that anybody reading your content knows that next step. Always be very, very clear on what that next step is that you want them to take. And we have just found great success with that exact formula, very simple formula of taking that content from Pinterest, putting it over here on Google Plus, and then driving people back over to Pinterest, where they can pin that, they can hang on to it, come back to it at any point, but also they have the opportunity to click through to that article that's probably sitting on your blog, read through that, maybe become a new subscriber. So the opportunities at that point really become limitless.
yeah, I mean, it's cool because what it does too is it actually helps drive your audience growth on both platforms.
It does.
Right?
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
one of the great things. And I know it's really hard for people who have very limited time to be active on multiple platforms, but if you're going to pick two, then you should pick two that kind of integrate well together.
Exactly.
Because
And
they
if you're
do.
spending a ton of time on Google Plus, you don't have to spend. Honestly, Pinterest is the lowest maintenance. Like once you have some boards built up, you just have to pin every once in a while. It's not like Google Plus is more time consuming when you're really involved, but Pinterest isn't. So it's nice.
Yeah.
It's lower volume.
Yeah, and it's finding when it's convenient, obviously fitting it into your day. So Peg and I find it convenient at the end of our day to kind of kick up our feet, sit on the couch, get on our iPad, and start pinning. But it's again, you know, it's making it easy, because social media should never be brain surgery. It shouldn't be so difficult that you feel like it's a chore. It should be fun. You should enjoy what you're doing. You should enjoy that content that you're sharing, that you're pinning. So just find out, you know, figure out what your schedule is, obviously within your business. Figure out what your motivation is, and then what time of the day it works best for you to get a couple of pins in, because it really doesn't take any more than that.
No. And I was going to add that Pinterest is a great place to help build your thought leadership, because you can build boards on certain topics that are important to you, and it's a great place for people to see what's important to you. And it's good to mix a couple, some personal things in that you like, but you can have boards that are just infographics, and boards that are Google Plus tips, and boards that are social media overall tips. And that it helps other people because they will use the resources that you build, but it also helps people realize, oh, Eric really knows what he's talking about when it comes to barbecuing, because he's got a barbecue board with 58 kinds of marinades on it. And it lets people see a different layer of you than just what you share, especially if you're like probably all three of us. We share mostly professional stuff, mostly, our main topic. But if you go to Google Plus, we may have something else mixed in, like, just coffee posts, or I have a cupcake board that I started. It was one of my first ones. So it's fun to mix in a couple of fun things, but it really does build your thought leadership. And I think it helps Google, again, find out what topics you're talking about, and for Google to say, Eric is interested in, barbecuing. So I think it all ties together. across, no matter what social platform you're on, when you're talking about the same things consistently, it helps search and other people naturally find your thought leadership areas without you having to say, I am a barbecue expert.
Yeah, well, yeah, it definitely brings in that third-party edification as people start to say, well, Peg is brilliant at social media because she's sharing social media over here and over here and over here, and I follow her all over the place, and everything she shares I just absolutely love. So you're starting to create that conversation around your business, around your personal brand, where other people are edifying you, are talking about you, and now they're starting to become that extension, that marketing extension of your business. With Canva. We're all a bunch of raving fans, and you're doing that, Peg. You're creating that frenzy, I think, of conversation, which is exactly what people want to do in their own business.
But here's the thing, that the next step from what you were saying is when people realize that you're an expert in something, the next thing that they do is they ask you questions. And they say, Rebecca, do you have an article on how to use Twitter? Like I'm sure you guys all get those questions. When you get to a certain point, it's great that people look to you as a resource, but then to find something quickly, I go on my Pinterest boards and I know I have stuff, like great articles. Sometimes I'll share the whole board, and sometimes I will share just a specific article. But it also saves me from only sharing my own blog posts all the time. Yeah. Even though I may have written on that, I don't only want to drop my blog link on everybody all the time. So I think it keeps this little cache of answers. It's like my little answer bin. Oh, Twitter tips? Definitely have Twitter tips. And I just go, it's like a little filing system. I just go over and I go, bing, and I share the link. So it helps you be a better, I hate the word thought leader, but I can't think of another term for it right now, but it helps build your expertise when you can back up what people think you know with actual facts.
Well, one way to just expand on something you were saying earlier, because you were talking about your cupcake blog and and I mean not your blog but your board.
I'd like a cupcake blog.
There you go. See? Well, now you have an action item out of this.
My husband would kill me.
Yeah, and then and you mentioned barbecuing with me, and I don't actually have a barbecuing board, but I could because we barbecue right through the winter at my house, by the way.
That's awesome.
So, we're pretty into it in my family. But what all of these things do is, especially these personal things, it makes it easier for people to relate to you and develop a sense of connection. You're not just someone who's one-dimensionally talking about one topic. And you wouldn't do that at your local neighborhood party, right? You wouldn't talk just about your lawn care problem for the entire party. I mean, people would rapidly go, okay, how can I avoid Rebecca? She's wants to on.
I'm sure no one ever says that.
I'm sure no one does either. But maybe I should have said Eric. But you know what I mean. It's just like.
Yeah, I call them coffee table conversations. It's making yourself relatable in that you're pulling people into the conversation. You're giving them a reason to chat with you because you're making yourself likable. You're making yourself a real human being, somebody that has likes, dislikes outside of what you do for a living. Because quite honestly, if all we ever did, to Eric's point, was talk about what we do 24/7, we're pretty boring people. So you have to talk about what's most important to you, and to me, that's the beauty in social media at the end of the day, is we're having all these conversations that, we're actively talking about what we do for a living, what we get up and do every single day, what excites us and we're passionate about, but we're also talking about all those unique things that make us that special person that we are. We're talking about, I love seeing, for example, Peg's pictures of cooking something off of Pinterest with her daughters, and how it all turns out. But those are those things that humanize us and allow people to connect with us. And it's kind of that olive branch, I guess, of conversation where we're saying, hey, here's what I love outside of business and maybe social media, whatever it is for you, and you're allowing them that insight into who you are and going much deeper into the conversation than keeping them at arm's length. And I think just having a conversation around your business is doing exactly that. You're saying, you know what? This is all I'm interested in talking about, and certainly that's fine. I'm not going to poo-poo that because people, you've got to know your limitations and what you're comfortable in talking about. But I can tell you that people connect with people and not just businesses. So I think at some point you've got to figure out what are those personal pieces you're okay, with putting out there and really sharing with people.
And sometimes my cookie pictures get more likes and +1s than my blog post for the week, which shows me that people just they like when you mix it up, it's something different,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and it's creating a conversation beyond your everyday topic. You're kind of stepping outside the walls of your profession, your niche, your industry, whatever it might be, and you're saying, I love cupcakes, because seriously, who doesn't, right?
Right.
So you're creating a relatable conversation that other people can go, oh my gosh, Peg, pins or shares the most amazing looking cupcakes, and then you're drawing them over to that pin on Pinterest. You're allowing them to possibly follow you, maybe follow that board, keep up with you on another social network, and then learn more about you, because Pinterest does allow us to share a little bit more of those personal details, whether you love to hike, or you love to bike, or you love to cook. We can share that content in a very different format, and probably in a very different way than we can on any other social network.
So just a reminder for everybody in the audience, if you have questions that you want to ask Peg or Rebecca or even me, pop them in the comment stream, and we'll fire some of them up into the conversation. But I mean, I love the whole theme about being more than one-dimensional, and it's funny because my background, as many people know, I mean, I come from a tech engineering background, introvert. So for me, when I first started trying to do things, even before we got to social media, when I started to do more business things, it's like, pick up the phone even with somebody and say, okay, so here's what we're going to talk about today, and that would be, boom, right in, right directly to the topic at hand, and
that's like an East Coast U.S. thing. Like what? Is this a phone call? It's all business, blah blah blah. Even in California, they're like a slower segue. Like, no, we're just like bam.
And I've learned a little bit more now. Okay, so now when I connect with Peg, the conversation is going to always be, so what's the latest cupcake?
But that's a great tip, though, Eric. Think about it. Like, if there's somebody that you want to talk to, you can find something that they share on Google Plus or Pinterest, maybe, and use that as a conversation opener.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's a break in their day, too, right? So, people, even workaholics, it's like the brain needs relief.
That's why we pin at night.
Yeah, exactly. We're on overload at that point. Just make it simple and pin.
Yes, yes, indeed. So it's it's Andy Lyons here. Cut to the chase. That was me. A little better at it now, and part of it too is just the sharing of yourself encourages them to do that with you too, which is a great thing to do. So we've started to broaden the conversation a little bit, but in general, I mean, if you're really trying to build your authority or be seen more as an influencer. I'm trying to use different words now, Peggy.
I know. There's only like 3. There's influencer, thought leader. There's not too many.
Authority's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
build your authority. I know. I like to tie that one in because it's Google, your author authority. It's all tied together.
Yeah, but the great thing is to create a situation where you're getting leverage cross-platform, and that's one of the reasons why we wanted to talk about Google Plus and Pinterest together, because they provide a fair amount of leverage to one another.
They really do.
But then you loop in your blog and things maybe that you're doing on other social platforms. Getting all those things to work together is a very powerful concept.
Mm-hmm. It
Yeah.
definitely is. And it pays off. So if you're on Google Plus and you're really already like really well established there, all you need to do on Pinterest is set up. Rebecca and I will give like the quickest, shortest, like bam, how to like get on Pinterest quick. Create 10 boards. Rebecca, what do you say next? We'll do like 10 things fast. What would your next step be? 10 boards.
Pin 5 things to each board.
Write good descriptions that have your keywords in it.
Mm-hmm. Connect and follow with 10 people a day.
Yeah, that's a good one. Pin just three new things a day at least, which is so minimal, so easy to do.
Share
if you could only pin 3, you're better than me. I get stuck there with
it. To go along the lines of integration, pin or rather tweet one of your pins.
Yeah. Add a link to your pins on Google Plus.
That's a good one. Yeah.
So you can see how easy it is. Like we just said those really quick. That's like, it's really not complicated to get set up over there. It's a really easy basic profile. Use your same Google Plus photo. Put a link to your blog in your description. Make sure you put a link to your blog in every pin that you add, because people do miss that step. And you'll immediately see that you start getting traffic to your blog from Pinterest. And then soon, if you're consistent, it'll be like in the top 10 of traffic referrals to your blog.
Yeah. For both of us, it's been our number 1 and 2. Google Plus and Pinterest go back and forth for us, and it's just been an amazing journey for us to be able to watch that over the last year and a half. Mm-hmm. See how that has just skyrocketed, and I truly believe that's because of the integrated strategy. It's that we're not just doing one-off tactics, and what I mean by that is we're not just over here in our corner of the world working on Google Plus or working on Facebook, because one of those social media channels in and of itself is not a strategy. Right. You've really got to, as you said, Eric, you've got to be able to pull it all together and show people that you have the ability to create content, but also to be able to share it in a very strategic way, that you're getting it out there in front of a whole new group of people, and then they're getting excited about your content and they're sharing it with more people, and the only way that's going to happen, that viral, I guess, piece of social media is that you're creating that content, but then also giving it the ability to get in front of a lot more people. So you're spreading it out, spacing it out even, which is another whole other strategy.
That's a whole other show.
That's a whole other show. But that's, back to Pinterest and Google Plus. That's the beauty in it, is that they do work so well together. If you're a blogger, if you're an author or writer, it's a no-brainer. It really has to be integrated into your overall marketing strategy. Peg just showed you proof of how easy it can be to get started with Pinterest, especially if you're already established on Google Plus. It's such an easy move over to start taking all of that content you've been curating, you've been finding over time, start kind of categorizing it into those buckets of content that you're creating as boards over there on Pinterest, and driving that traffic.
You can pin your Google Plus posts.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. You can pin just about anything.
Posts that do amazing. You could make like a little board that was like my "What's Hot" board, and you could, in your description, you can say these posts all hit what's hot on Google Plus. So people, when they read that, are going to be like, these must be awesome. Or they might be like, what's Google Plus? But that's okay.
Now that was a terrific idea. One of those duh moments. You know, why wouldn't you create something like that? Because you're saying, hey, you know, these got a lot of traffic, a lot of response, a lot of social shares. You're creating social proof for yourself. So yeah, there are just so many different ideas, different ways you can use Google Plus and Pinterest together. But the idea is to be very clear on your purpose behind social media, because if you don't know why you're using it, it's going to be really hard to figure out what your strategy is behind Google Plus and Pinterest. But if you know why you're spending your time there, who your target market is, who that persona is you're trying to get in front of, what kind of content do they crave, what are they out there looking for, it becomes terribly easy to identify what that content is to share on a daily basis, and then start to use the two social platforms in tandem together just to elevate, as I said before, that conversation around your business or brand, elevate your authority, your influence, and then expand your market into, especially into sectors that previously might have been unreachable or untouchable. There were gatekeepers before that, you know, wouldn't let you beyond, and now all of a sudden, you know, voila, Pinterest or Google Plus has allowed you to get in front of those people. So it's, you know, we get a little excited about it because there's so much opportunity there, and it goes way, way, way beyond that misconception of isn't Pinterest just for, you know, pinning wedding gowns or pinning my favorite recipe? And absolutely it is for that, but it's also for every business out there, whether you're a national brand, whether you're a local business. It's just finding, you know, that rhythm, that style that we talked about earlier, and how to make it work for you.
So
and at some point you have to stop fishing out of the goldfish bowl. If you're only on one social platform, you're fishing in a goldfish bowl eventually to find new people and, you know, other people that are going to help share your message to a different group of people. You know, you need to go expand past one network.
That's a great point. Social media is bigger than just ourselves, right?
No, absolutely. Yeah. And one thing you mentioned, Rebecca, was this, you know what you're in it for, and I just want to expand upon that a little bit too, because it's okay. Somebody might say, "Well, I'm in it to be seen as a thought leader," but that's not enough of a description. You have to get to a thought leader of what, and you have to take that a little further, because I want to be known as the thought leader in all of digital marketing. Well, okay, that's probably a little bit of a big goal to start with. So
and people may have a little head start on you.
Yeah.
You want to establish your initial position, and okay, I'm going to be seen as a thought leader in this, and you know, something where there's room for you to get in there and get started, and then people will begin to trust you for that. And then when you expand a little bit from there, it's easier, because I've already seen the level and quality of the work that you can do when you go deep on something. And once you have that level of focus, a lot of other things become a lot easier.
Yeah, it's taking it from that 70,000-foot level down to the ground level is, I think, what you're talking about too.
Absolutely.
Well, and the other thing is that people look at titles like, you know, social media strategist, like Rebecca has, or other titles that I have, and they think they can immediately hop on social media, and then I want to be a social media expert like you are. I want to do what you do. I have people that email me all the time. How can I have your job? What do I need to do? If you have no clue how to do anything in social media, you can't just hop in and be like, you can put social media strategist on your bio, but that doesn't mean you are one. Unless you've worked with brands and managing other people other than your own social media. Managing your own social media doesn't make you a strategist.
Well,
that makes you a person using social media.
Yeah, so the point is get super clear on what it is you do. What's your skill set, and what is it that you'll be able to bring to people every day. So
it's different. That's different.
Absolutely. So it's that 70,000 foot level, like Eric was talking about, of I want to be an influencer. Fantastic. Of what? What do you do? What's your skill set? And then who are those people you serve every day, and what problems do you solve for them every day? And then how are you going to consistently share content that solves those problems? So you've got to create conversation, talk about things, share content that you're an expert or an authority or a specialist at. Otherwise, that conversation is going to be very hard to maintain. There's no sustainability behind that, because you're going to lose steam, you're going to lose interest, people are going to start poking holes, kind of maybe in your theories or what you're talking about. So you're actually doing a disservice to yourself rather than just stepping out into what it is you do best. And even if, because I hear this on a daily basis, well, people aren't talking about what I do. I create widgets and nobody's talking about widgets. Well, yeah, there is. There are people talking about what you are out there sharing. You've just got to find those people. And Google Plus and Pinterest, again, give you an enormous opportunity to just get hyper laser focused on those communities, those areas, those niches, that content that people are talking about every day, and then place yourself in front of them over and over and over again to really create that authority we're talking about. But talking about something you know nothing about or very little about, not going to create that.
Hey, we do have one question from the audience I want to get out there from Bill Ashton. The best reference for implementing Pin It for Later on the various platforms.
Bill, I have to say hello to Bill. So glad he's here.
The best reference for implementing it? I'm not understanding what he's asking. Do you understand, Rebecca?
I don't really. I don't know.
We just write the words Pin It for Later, and then we put the link. I think people sometimes think that that's a more complicated thing than it actually is.
Yeah.
But I do have it on a couple of my blog posts on Pinterest. But really, it's just create. You don't even have to use Pin It for Later. That's just the words that I have used. You can make up your own, like pin it now, pin it on your. I don't know what. You can make up whatever you want. That's
Pin it to win it.
Yeah. Pin it, get in it. You write whatever you want. But just write something that fits with your style of posting and your language, and then just put the link to your Pinterest pin. That's it. It's really, really basic.
Yeah.
So pin everything first, and then share it. That's the key.
Yeah, and it's really, whatever your call to action is. So it could be, want to learn more, pin it here, or can't read it now, pin it for later. So it's just however you want to direct them over to it, or whatever is, I guess, kind of coordinated with the content. Maybe it's 10 tips, and you only gave them 2 on Google+. So for more tips, pin it, over here, hop over to Pinterest, or it could be love Pinterest like I do, pin it for later, whatever feels comfortable
it's hard to
you.
Get out of the pin it for later, because we've said it.
We've said
it
it
so much. That's why I've typed it in my sleep, pin it for later, pin it for later. But it doesn't have to be that exact text. It's just a call to action. You could even just say, save it here. I mean, it doesn't.
Yeah,
you could.
that simple.
Yeah.
Yep, totally. So looks like we have crested the hour, and we could, it seems like, keep talking for a long time, and we'd love to do that, but I think we should probably wrap it up. Do you each want to offer some closing comments? Peg, do you want to offer some closing thoughts for people?
I just urge people to give Pinterest a try. If they're huge Google Plus fans, which I would assume most people watching this are, if you're using Google Plus, Pinterest is a great booster for your Google Plus presence. And if you're a blogger, it's like fuel for your content, and it will keep filling up your tank. So get penning.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. If you've been holding back, thinking Pinterest holds no value for your business, I would just encourage you, hop over there, do 5 and 5. 5 new boards, 5 new pins, see how that goes. Get started, and then take one of those pins and share it on Google+. see what kind of interaction, what kind of engagement you get, and then track your progress. See how many people are actually following you over on Pinterest. See how much of that traffic is making its way back over to your website or your blog, and give it a good 30 days to really see what kind of traction you're getting, because that's the other problem too, is people give up too soon and they just kind of throw their hands up and say, well, this doesn't work. Well, of course it didn't work, because you never really gave it a chance. So make it
you're on Google Plus, we know you have the skills, because you hung in there for Google Plus. Pinterest is easier than Google Plus to get started. So all the Google Plusers are the ones that hang in there and like duke it out.
So we like duking it out for sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I want to just second what both of you said. It's really important to get started with it. It's understanding the leverage that Google Plus and Pinterest bring to each other is just fantastic, and it doesn't take that much time to add Pinterest into the mix for you. Comparatively speaking, it's an incremental 10 or 20% of your time, and you can really get some things going. So fantastic opportunity for you all. Peg, Rebecca, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been a great discussion. I've just loved mostly listening and occasionally jumping in, but I kind of was hoping for that. So, and so that's it for the Digital Marketing Excellence Show for today. Thanks everybody, and have a great day.
Bye. Thank you
Bye-bye.
for having us.
You.